All right, guys.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's Town Hall. I'm Mike Netter, for those that don't know, and even if you do, I guess. Tim, thanks a lot for that great video that you put together at the beginning of every show. And I wish it was as real easy as building up California as you rebuild California. But frankly, we're going to need some dump trucks, it looks like, because it's time to get rid of a lot of the things that they're throwing at us. Critical race theory, or CRT, is what we're going to focus on this week because, as you know, Gavin Newsom himself just put forward a mandate that is going to be required for all kids at the high school level. The reality is we need to do a lot of things that we're going to talk about in this show to change the way, not only with the, what we tried with the recall of Gavin Newsom, but the way our government is doing an action that you can take in the state. And now I'm very, very proud to bring in the leader of the recall, my partner in crime, Orrin Heatley. Orrin, how the hell are you tonight?
October 13th, Wednesday evening. It's a wonderful day up here in sunny California. Just got back from a trip from up north, and I took a couple of days and I went hunting, and I saw some things that were very, very eye-opening, folks. Something that Kevin Kiley had brought up a while back, which was very interesting, was that it's not climate change that is burning the quantity of land in California. It's forest management, and spending a couple of days in the national forest, driving from Sierra Pacific Railroad property, where they have miles upon miles of railroad property, and then into the national forest. You would see in the railroad property, well maintained, underbrush cleared. You could see through the trees that it wasn't overgrown or overcrowded, and there wasn't any dead foliage on the ground. But you hit that national forest line and it was night and day. Animals can't walk in the national forest because of the sheer number of downed trees blocking their ways. There's no trails, no pathways. So, it was really eye-opening to see the difference in how the forest is managed and just what importance that plays when it comes to forest land management.
That's a great lead-in, actually, to what we're talking about tonight, whether you know it or not, or as we like to say, whether you like it or not. Because the reality is that we're not on the path to not educating our kids about the right things to do. Tonight, we have on the show somebody very, very special as our guest. We actually have two people. One is a gentleman who we're very associated with. His name is Eric Early. And before you start talking, Eric, I want to preface it with this. Rebuild California across the state, as many of you have had exposure to, is about bringing the state together like the recall did. As we open and get pop-ups around the state again, as we get people to volunteer, we need to make sure that we support both the initiatives coming out, information coming out, and make sure that we get support candidates statewide at the grassroots level, just like we did for the recall. And I see Orrin nodding his head, but he knows I'm right. Rarely am I wrong, Orrin. The reality is this. If we don't have an attorney general that stands up and defends the initiatives that we put on the ballot, if we don't have an attorney general that stands up for the rights of the people, and we don't have the correct attorney general that's going to do that, all this work we're doing is for naught. There's a lot of important offices in the state, but the attorney general office lost a lot of attention is paid to sometimes. I also want to add that what Eric's going to focus on tonight, and Shannon afterwards telling you what action that you can take, is that Eric is one of the few people that I know, as you saw in our pregame video, put so adeptly together by Tim Holiday, who has experience and understanding in winning a court case on CRT. Orrin, do you want to add anything to that before I introduce our guest?
I do. The Attorney General position in our state or in any state is one of the most powerful positions in government. And it is probably the reason for our dramatic homeless rate that we have here in California, where you have the Attorney General is in charge of title and summary for the initiatives that are put on ballot. And Prop 47 was wrongfully titled by Kamala Harris, the Attorney General at the time, as the Safe Neighborhoods Act. And so many people don't read beyond the headlines. They don't read into the meat of any propositions. And, they're worded so confusingly a lot of times that they don't understand what they're reading. And a lot of people don't know that that's the sole job of the attorney, not the sole job, but it's the Attorney General's responsibility to title initiatives that are being put on the ballot that we vote on. And if you have an Attorney General in office who is deceitful, who is going to use that position to deceive the public, to push forward their own agenda, that's what you end up with. And the results speak for themselves. We saw that, for those that don't know what Prop 47 is, Eric can go into this in more detail, but that is the mechanism that was used to depopulate our prison system back in 2013, 2014. And then you saw the population of the prisons decrease as the population of the homeless increased in direct proportion.
Absolutely. I'm going to introduce Eric. We're going to get to Shannon in a couple seconds here. Shannon is our lead volunteer coordinator for Rebuild California and for Eric Early's campaign. This is your chance, my friends, to see Eric talking about issues that are important to you. I am very proud and honored to be traveling this state with Eric. Up and down, the reaction that he's getting is absolutely fantastic. And he's taking the time, just like we did in the recall, to work and touch the people of California. I see in our online feed, someone ran a commercial. That's pretty easy to do. To go out and touch and talk to the people over the next 6 to 8 months takes a lot of time and effort, just like we were forced to do in the recall. I'm now proud to introduce Eric Early.
All right, guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Eric.
Okay, great. First of all, Orrin, Mike, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor knowing you, working with you guys, calling you guys my friends. It was an honor for me to be the lead lawyer for Recall Gavin 2020. And, as Mike said, I'm traveling the state with him. We're campaigning up and down the state, running for California Attorney General, which is the chief law enforcement officer and legal officer of the state. I run a great law firm, about 25 to 30 lawyers. We practice in all the courts of the state. We practice in other courts in the country. I've got a blessed life. My wife and I, we have 4 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat. We don't need politics in our life, but we run for office because we love this country and we know it is under attack. And I'm going to be talking somewhat about critical race theory today, as it's a huge issue for me. As you saw in that opening video clip, which is on the website, the campaign website, www.ericearly4ca.com, about 4 years ago, I brought the first lawsuit in the country against what is now known as critical race theory. I got called by these great people up in Santa Barbara, and they formed a group called Fair Education Santa Barbara. We sued the public school district up there. We sued the superintendent up there, who we ultimately got fired. He's the guy that brought this garbage into their system up there. We sued one of these organizations I call social justice warriors, and we sued to get the materials. And they didn't want to give it to the parents even to show what they were teaching the kids up there and teaching the teachers. And the court gave us the materials, And frankly, this is about 4 years ago. We were stunned. We were shocked. Now, a lot of us have seen this stuff, and thankfully, parents are rising up all around this country to do what they can to get this CRT, critical race theory, out of their kids' schools. And then they didn't want us to show it to the community, and we published it publicly on the internet for all of Santa Barbara County. But there's a lot of talk about critical race theory these days, and I have some documents with me because I want to dig into it a little deeper here, because I want folks to know exactly what's going on. And yes, this guy I call the empty suit, I sometimes refer to him as the arrogant punk, and that's the low intelligence Gavin Newsom. He signed into law just the other day. The state of California now has an ethnic studies requirement that kids must study before they graduate high school in this state. But that's almost a diversion, because this stuff is going on in schools around the state, K through 12. It's been going on for years, and we got to stop it. So let me give you some specific examples, because I think this stuff really tells the tale. Just a few examples. I could go on and on. Here's something. I got contacted by a great parent the other day in Salinas, California. I get contacted by parents around the state and around the country, seeing what can be done about this. And she did a Freedom of Information Act request, and she got the entire Salinas County programming on critical race theory. So let me just read you some snippets from the documents. And these documents have been used up there for several years. This is a segment called Mock Trial, Genocide, and Native Californians. This is right out of Salinas County's lesson plan. This activity is similar to the well-known Columbus on Trial lesson sequence and could be expanded into Colonialism on Trial mini unit. In Unit 2, students conduct a mock trial in which they charge various persons implicated in the crime of genocide against Native Californians. And to them, they go on, they explain what genocide is. Basically, any European who came here to settle America is guilty of genocide of what they call the indigenous peoples. And this is what they're teaching in the schools. And I have a chart here, much like the chart, frankly, that we found in Santa Barbara. They use various forms of this throughout the state. And this chart will give you another example of this stuff that's being used to poison our kids' brains. And what they're doing in these classes on a regular basis, starting in kindergarten, is they are dividing our kids by race. They are creating hatred and an animosity between children of color on one side and white kids on the other side. And they're creating a whole generation of white kids who are totally guilty about being white. And it's bad. And if there should be no doubt, and I'm going to read you some stuff here and you'll see what I'm talking about. There should be no doubt where these Antifas are coming from. There should be no doubt where these BLMs are coming from. There should be no doubt where this entire woke generation has come from. They have gone through these brainwashing camps. Our public schools and many of our private schools, and they're brilliant because our taxpayer dollars are being used to teach the next generation of kids how to destroy America. It is a terrible thing. I can't emphasize how bad this stuff is. And I know everybody, so many people are wondering what is happening to this country, where what is up is now down, what is down is now up, where people who love this country are being called American terrorists and domestic enemies, and people who hate this country are being treated as if they are somehow great people. It comes from this ongoing indoctrination of the kids. So let me read you some snippets from another document that came out of this FOIA request from Salinas County. This has various categories in it, right? It's a chart, different categories. This is right out of their lesson plans. One column is called social identity, and underneath that it has the word race. Next column, privileged group, white. Next column, form of oppression, racism. According to these people, the only people who can be racist are white people. And by the way, I just need to be clear. I run for attorney general. I run for every law-abiding American citizen of every race, creed, color. Just got to be clear about that when you talk about this stuff these days, because you know how they are. Okay, column, oppressed, marginalized group, people of color, black, red, brown, yellow. Now imagine kids in elementary school, middle school, high school having this stuff put in their heads. You got the white kids who are the racists, right? According to this stuff. You got the oppressors. You got the oppressed group being basically everybody else. Forms of resistance: regenerating, reclaiming, and restoring roots. Institutional structural oppression, genocide, ethnocide, cultricide. Here's another column here. Social identity, pre-colonial ancestry, privileged group, European ancestries, form of oppression, Eurocentrism, oppressed, marginalized groups. You're going to be surprised when you hear this. American Indian, African, Asian, oceanic ancestries. In other words, you're not going to be surprised. Internalized oppressions, historic amnesia, forms of resistance, ancestral memory, institutional structural oppression, colonial hegemonic matrix, whatever that means. They also go into sexually, they start messing with the kids' sexuality at the youngest ages. Social identity, sexuality, privileged group, heterosexuals, form of oppression, homophobia, oppressed groups, LGBTQIAP+, internalized oppression, self-hatred, form of resistance, pride, queering, institutional oppression, heteronormativity, whatever that means. And, so this stuff goes on and on. This is going on in our schools right now. This is just a few of hundreds of documents that we have that I gather. I was speaking in San Diego just, Mike, what day were we there? 2 days?
Monday.
Monday. A parent came up to me, handed me this document, something from down in that area. This is a Black Lives Matter coloring book, okay? This is for the elementary school, public elementary school, Black Lives Matter coloring book. Let me just read you some things from here. For example, Black villages, the 13 Black Lives Matter guiding principles. Here's one of them. Changing the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. That's a nice thing to be teaching kids in elementary school. Empathy, practicing empathy by engaging comrades. Black families dismantle patriarchal practices. Last thing on the bottom that this woman highlighted, this stuff goes on and on. Fun counselors, not cops. Okay? This stuff is as dangerous as it sounds. This brainwashing is happening all throughout our state. It is happening all throughout our country, except in those red states that have outlawed it, frankly. And as I said in that video snippet, if I'm lucky enough to be Attorney General in this state, I will do whatever I can to outlaw this stuff in this state. I believe it is one of the top 3 most dangerous things we are facing as a nation. They are stealing the brains out of our kids' minds. And I won't go on much longer, but I will read you this bit because this is the way the other side completely confounds the voters in our country. This is a Fox News story that came out on Sunday. In Virginia right now, we've got this guy, Terry McAuliffe, who is joined at the hip with the Clinton-Obama machine. He's running for governor against somebody down there named Glenn Youngkin. McAuliffe was on CNN on Sunday morning, and this Fox article is talking about it. Virginia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe on Sunday repeated his talking point about critical race theory being a dog whistle and said it is a made-up plan by his Republican opponent to divide people. This is what these people are saying. They're saying this is made up, and they're saying it's made up by Republicans to divide people. Now, I just read you a few snippets from some of these lesson plans, and all they're doing is dividing people. They're dividing kids by race every single day of the week in this country. And then you get these clowns on the other side who get up, say it's made up, and say that we're the ones dividing people. Let me read you a little bit more about this stuff. This is McAuliffe. This is a made up, this is a Trump, Betsy DeVos, Glenn Youngkin plan to divide people. It really bothers me, said McAuliffe. I try to unite people. And that's just an example of what we're fighting. They always blame it on Donald Trump. And oh, by the way, as Orrin and Mike know, I'm not shy about saying this. I say this all around the state. I'm the only statewide candidate who's going to say the following for some reason. I support Donald Trump. I believe he was a great president. And here is just yet another example of how these lying sacks on the other side try to completely, bollocks the minds of the voters out there. There is little doubt in my mind, and I'm sure most of your minds, that most parents around this country, regardless of how they're registered to vote, regardless of their racial background or their socioeconomic background, don't want this garbage being taught to their kids. They want their kids prepared, with the basics to live a good and decent and healthy life in this great country. They don't want their kids to be turned into activists to hate this country. But that's exactly what's happening. And I'll do whatever I can to stop it. So Mike, Orrin, that's what I have today. If there's anything else, I could talk about my other positions too, but I think I probably took up enough time.
No, it's good to focus on that. And I want to say what I find interesting, and I hear this when I hear students speak, is that, like you mentioned about Trump, like we talk about kids talking in school, that the era of conversation when it comes to politics, it's like they want to grind to a halt. It's interesting when I hear the mainstream press report on things, they don't, and I hear kids talking like we're afraid to speak up in school. And it's not whether you agree or disagree, it's a matter of opening up the conversation. And I also find it quite fascinating that, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong here, that again, like we've talked about, we don't teach civics in school anymore or the art of democracy. And I think what I'm personally going to say, I find a little bit offensive about CRT is the fact, shouldn't we be teaching the art of democracy before we require specific disciplines that have a point of view? Because our nation was built on people conversing and discussing things, not having a point of view kind of pushed to them. And our right to free speech and say what we believe without being piled on by a press that frankly sometimes, not all the time, let's be clear, because I know there's some reporters on the night, but some of the time for some of the press does not want to express all the points of view. We don't get the news reported on. And if we're not getting the news reported on and we push things forward on CRT with a point of view in a school about how we should feel currently. And I'm going to ramble for 1 second here, shocking to everybody on this broadcast, I know. But we're comparing CRT to not teaching about George Washington. Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Orrin, is George dead? And I'm really serious about that because
George has been dead for quite a while.
Okay, so we talk all the time about we shouldn't express historical things, like we might learn something from them about people that are no longer around. But we certainly want to spend a lot of time slanting your point of view about people that are still around. And to me, that's a very defining point. Don't take our eye off the ball that the people that founded this country who can't defend themselves anymore built a system for us where we could discuss current things openly and freely. And I want to make sure for everybody out there that I personally believe that CRT kind of takes that away from us. When we talk about positions like the Attorney General and other things that we talk about, like school choice, where parents should have the right to decide how their kids are educated, which I think is fair enough. I know my parents apparently didn't take good care of me, but don't be like Mike. Get out there and take action in your community so we have choices. And that's kind of where Shannon comes in today, because we have a good number of people watching us on Facebook Live. We have a good number of people watching us on YouTube, and the ones that we have gathered tonight. And I want to encourage you again to stay active and join us both in the Eric Early and Rebuild California campaign. And to do that, that's kind of where Shannon comes in, who is our statewide coordinator. And so I want to give Shannon about 30 seconds. No, I'm kidding. Shannon, take
Go.
how fast you could talk as fast as me.
I can talk really fast.
Tell us a little bit about how people can volunteer and stay involved for Eric Early, get signed up and stay engaged in these issues so we could continue the conversation in the field like we did in the recall.
Yeah, this is a really important time right now. We're still have that major energy from the recall, and people are still wanting to help, thank God. So I would suggest going to Eric Early, or Eric Early 4, which is FORCA.com, and please sign up as a volunteer there. We're going to be having booths. I'm going to have one on Monday, the 18th, in front of the Capitol because of parents with their choice to pull their children out of school. I'm going to be having an Eric Early booth. And with that booth, we're also going to be educating people about other things that are going on in our area. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do across the state, is we want people to join in with us and educate people, because that's literally where it starts. People don't understand how important the Attorney General is, you know, and I learned a lot of this stuff working the recall. I didn't know half of this stuff, and I'm lucky to be educated by that, to understand that if we have somebody as honest as Eric in office, we're going to go a lot further with our bills and our laws. We're going to have somebody looking out for our best interest and our children, because, you know, I am a mother, and this, you know, scares me. The CRT training, you know, is terrifying to think that my little children are going to have to grow up feeling horrible about who they are because of their skin color. And I think that's just considered evil in any aspect. So I think if people who are passionate, you know, and want to help with the community, because it's going to take all of us together to get anything going in California. We are a strong force to be reckoned with. Please sign up and volunteer. Go to Eric Early for California, for FORCA.com, and please sign up and volunteer. I will get back to you personally, you know, and I will talk to you, and we will set things up. I'm hoping to do a lot of wonderful things and get a lot of help with, you know, we need admins, we need kind of sort of the same energy we had with the recall. And that's really what we're trying to push forward with. And yeah, pretty much we're really gun-ho and ready to go. And I have a lot of excited people who are excited about Eric. Everywhere you talk, Eric, everybody loves you.
Well, thank you, Shannon. You know, I'm very blessed to have everybody on this screen on my team. I mean, folks, you all know this already, but these folks, Orrin Heatley, Mike Netter, Shannon Heil, Tim Holliday, these are the future of this state. I've dealt with these. I've dealt with your standard Republican consultants in the past, in the background. They're nothing compared to what you're looking at on this screen here. These folks are unbelievable, and I'm so blessed to be with you guys. So thank you.
Well, thank you,
Can
Eric.
I chip in for 2 seconds, Mike?
You can have a full 30 seconds if you like, Orrin.
I'm going to say something that might be contrary to some of the things that we've been talking about, but I'll sew it up neatly and bring it full circle for everybody. I understand critical race theory. I understand Black Lives Matter. I have, you know, some idea of the reason this is all taking place in society right now. There is a deep rooted sentiment in our culture, with that revolves around the travesties of racial hatred in our country. And something that Shannon had said earlier or just now was, she doesn't want her children to grow up feeling horrible about who they are based on their skin color. Well, it's a true, irrefutable fact that people have grown up in America feeling badly about their skin color. Now things have come full circle, and it's kind of it's our turn now. You're going to feel some of the pain that our ancestors felt. Well, that's not the way to fix things. Okay, that's not the way to bridge the gap. It's only a means of dividing our country. Yes, bad things, horrible things happen, and people were victimized. But evil, you don't use evil to fight evil. That only evil wins. And in this day and age, we're a sophisticated nation, and we have the ability to rise above these divisions within our communities, within our culture and ethnicities and things, and come together and honor one another's cultures. I heard a definition of culture the other day that was intriguing, and it was, basically whatever society deems as acceptable is your culture. In 1932, Germany, and all the way up to 1941, or 44, the Nazis ruled the day, and their culture was horrible, horrific. But it's whatever we deem as acceptable in our culture. If we deem that segregation is once again acceptable, as I'm hearing a lot of colleges, a lot of schools are self-segregating once again. If you had David Duke come out and say, hey, I think that's a great idea, I think a lot of people would disagree with it. But you have this critical race theory and the agenda that they're pushing forward, where we need a Black only graduation at a college, or racially segregated classes or things like that. This isn't the way forward in our future. And I think that we all agree, at least on this call, that we need to build bridges and come together and not divide one another. And this is what critical race theory does. There's a reason behind it, but it's not a productive mechanism to solve the problems that we have in our society.
Well, and Oren, what is this going to do for those that are have mixed ethnicities?
Yeah.
They're going to, even what do they do? That's going to create
my
a lot
daughter,
of confusion.
My daughter who has a Latina mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah. But do they have to choose? No, they don't. They're people, and we just need to recognize everybody's individuality and move on, and embrace each other, and grow with love and unity, and not division.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good point, is that, sorry, Tim, but keeping divided is the way that a government keeps control. And that's really what they didn't like about the recall, right? That it's going to unify a lot of California. I would like to get to a couple questions that Eric has, and I'll ask for Eric a quick answer. Eric, if people want to know specific information, how to even approach fighting in their school district. We have a question on when do you convene a grand jury, way above my pay grade. Should they just email your campaign? Is that the best way to maybe get specific information?
I think that's probably the best. Go to ericearlyforca.com, and you'll see there's a place on there you can fill out information, and Shannon will probably end up with that request, and then I'll get it. I'll hear from Shannon about it. But this is another thing that you're touching on here that is yet another troubling aspect of what's going on with these this imbecile in Washington D.C., frankly, and what's going on in this country. Um, Parents, as we've been seeing, have been standing up. They've been going to school board meetings. They've been saying, we don't want this stuff taught to our children. These school board members, so many of them basically treat the parents with the back of their hand. They yes them and they say what needs to be said and they completely ignore them. And when you study this stuff more and more, you realize not only how important our school board positions are, frankly, I think they're some of the most important elected positions in the country. And anybody's thinking about running for anything, run for school board. And the far left has known how important these positions are for years and years. And they have worked so hard to fill so many of these school boards. Each county has about 5 school board members, elected members, who decide what is brought in, what is taught in the schools. They have tremendous power. But then you saw about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a left-wing educational organization sends a letter directly to the Biden administration calling these great patriots, these parents who are not only fighting on the front lines for our country and for their kids' educations, calling them American terrorists. And the next thing you know, you get the Attorney General for the entire country issuing a letter, I've got a copy of it here, saying that we're going to have the FBI and local law enforcement start looking into these people and what they're doing. They're coming at us from all sides. I'll tell you, I'm lucky enough to be Attorney General. I want to be able to send out people to protect the parents who are getting into these school board meetings and doing whatever they can legally to get this stuff out of their kids' educations. But yeah, if you send me questions, Eric Early for CA.com, Shannon and I, Dan and I, Netter will get some of them and we'll work through them.
So Eric, after we finished working your show last week, I actually have friends over in Salinas, California, which is in Monterey County. I went ahead and sent your show directly to them saying,
Yeah.
Hey, watch this. It's about your area. And it's very important for the people over there to know, that they need to, get on board with these school.
Listen, Salinas is a hotbed for this stuff. Parts of San Diego is a hotbed for this stuff. Santa Barbara is a hotbed for this stuff. More and more of LA County is becoming a hotbed for this stuff. It's all over the place. These people on the other side are rabid. They have no governor, meaning no barometer. They don't have a governor either, frankly, but they just keep piling on and piling on. We got to stop.
They're cutting the mooring lines that have held society in place for so long, and they're setting us adrift with no moral compass to find our way back to the dock.
Yes.
That's actually good that you answered that, because I had a lot of mothers reaching out to me and asking me the similar question. They're terrified, that they're going to be domestic terrorists, and that's kind of a scary thought when you can't even go into your own state capital or school board where your children are at or anywhere without being deemed a bad person for opposing something that is going to literally control your life. Like, our say and anything going on is we're the bad guys. And Orrin and I have been to the Capitol before, and we know how it feels. And I think that's another important part, is that if you have a good attorney general, my selling point's always, those bills that they're hacking up and lying about. Well, if you had a good attorney general, those things wouldn't pass. You would have somebody who looks at these bills for what they are. So I can see you want to answer.
Well,
that.
let me just, I'll just add to that. The attorney general is not a legislator, not in the assembly or the state senate where they come up with these bills and send them to Newsom to sign. But the attorney general can certainly do what he or she can to influence that. But one thing an attorney general definitely can do is some of these laws that this arrogant punk signs, if they are completely unconstitutional, the attorney general in this day and age is going to have to start going against the unconstitutional laws and doing whatever we can to knock them out.
Let me add a couple things here as we get to the end of the show that I see the questions go. Eric, the team, and many of us as we gather are going to be up and down the state for literally the next 3 to 4 months. So we have some questions. Are you going to be in this city, that city, etc.? Again, the best way to get information is get in touch with Shannon, stay in touch with Shannon and myself. We publish some of the major events on Eric's webpage, like we do on Rebuild California. We will when it's up, like we did on the recall. It's important that everybody get out there and attend the events, which could be
We're
attended.
speaking
And we're
all
going to,
over the place, all over the state. I like
and
to
many
go-
of them
I
are
like
open
going and
events.
talking to people. I
Yes,
like
he
going in
does.
person and talking to everybody, and we've been going all over the place, all over Northern California, all around Southern California, and just let us know. Contact us, and if you can get a group of people together, I'll be up there speaking to you.
And
And
another
I
way
want to
to,
weigh in and just let everybody know that because of Eric's positions, the Soros foundations are going to be funding his opposition heavily. So Eric can use all of the help he can get. You can donate to Eric's campaign. Where, Shannon?
Oh, at ericearly4ca.com.
And where can we get yard signs, Shannon?
You can go to ericearly4california.com.
Well, you guys are good.
We got
Guys
this
are
down.
really-
So a
you
lot
guys
of your
are good.
questions here is Steve. I know Steve put in the chat. You can get all your questions answered. I've got a couple more things I want to cover. I have a news flash tonight. California actually has done something right that I see some question about.
Oh my God.
Redistricting in the state, we actually voted in for everybody out there. Redistricting is a committee of 5 independents, 5 Republicans, and 5 Democrats. I see questions about redistricting, which is very important. The challenge with redistricting is, if you Google it, these committees have been, I'm working on a subcommittee right now, not as officially, but for the party, are begging for comments. Literally, they have Zoom meetings and 3 or 4 people show up. So if you're concerned with redistricting, and you should be, because not for Eric's race, but it sets the tone for the next 10 years. When we say participate, participate. It's one of the few things California has passed that we actually are one of the few states that are nonpartisan about it, and they're looking for your input. There are Zoom meetings in every county. There are sub-Zoom meetings. There's statewide meetings. There's a place for comment. Proposed maps are public. So I want to put that out there because I get a lot of questions and I see some in the feed. Redistricting in California is actually something that people can take place in. Now, I also have a major question, which is news to me. Eric, do you have a radio show? Why don't you tell people when the hell it is?
Well, okay, it's not news to you, but down here in the LA County, Riverside County region, we have a great Salem radio affiliate, AM 870, The Answer. It's AM 870, and every Sunday from 12 to 1 in the afternoon live, I do a show called The Early Edition. And I talk to people live all around this area, and I talk about all the things I've been talking about today and a lot more things. And people can call in live. It's a great show, so please listen in. And Tim can explain also, because now Tim has been putting it out there on Facebook and Zoom and all kinds of
Magdalena Radio, and there's a number of ways to listen to this. Just like I've lost control.
because I put up the screen for 870
I know that.
The Answer.
Never had
Sunday,
control. Yes.
Every Sunday on 870 AM. And you can also watch on Zoom. So those that are on Facebook, you can watch for the announcements on Eric Early's page. Just go on to Facebook and look for Eric Early.
And the show is recorded and put up on his Facebook page, just like a couple other questions we had tonight, just like our town hall is. 870 is the station. Again, if you simply Google Eric Early, it will come up. All shows, everything we do is recorded by Tim. It's put out there. You can call in, ask Eric Early questions directly. Like a good suggestion might be, why is Netter so cool? Just an idea.
Check out the show, folks. We think you'll like it. Tim, where do you post this stuff every week so folks
I
can
post it
know?
up and down the state and across the nation in some places, so a lot of people can hear. And
Great.
and everybody, we definitely need the help here in California, as you can see.
Tim,
Oh.
I love your boom sleeve that you have for your mic. That's
Hey,
awesome.
thanks.
Lauren, do you
myself.
want to add anything as we roll to a close? You're staying quasi on time.
Oh, no, you know what? I think it was a great show. We're going to be back here again next Wednesday, folks. Same bat channel, same bat time. And join us because every week we have new and exciting guests and important information. And you guys remember, get your gas-powered generator, your gas-powered lawnmowers, your gas-powered yard tools now because 2024, you won't be able to buy them in stores.
Remember, everybody, that it's your state. And the only way they take your rights from you is if you let them by not participating. I see different versions of this every week, but the reality is this. God bless everybody listening tonight, taking the time on Facebook. We have as many as 2,000-3,000 some week watch this. Get the word out. You've got to tell everybody that to simply keep the conversation open, the freedoms that are yours, the rights which are yours, the state which is yours. We have had one party rule for too long, and it's
Don't
up
give
to
an
us.
inch.
Don't give an inch. It's up to the people of California peacefully through the methods that we have to take our state back.
Yep.
It's
Never
your
give up.
state.
Never give up.
Never give up. Do something about it. Participate. Get a hold of the Eric Early campaign. Rebuild California. Get out there and spread the word. Remember,
Vote early.
vote early. I love it.
Vote early,
Vote early.
often.
Don't vote often, but do vote early and make sure you participate. It's your damn state, and no one can take it away from you as long as you're paying attention.
Our primary is in June or July, just FYI, and then the general will be next November.
But before that, every day of the week, the team here and behind is doing something. Join us. Join us in rebuilding California because it needs a lot of rebuilding, and it's up to you, all of you, to carry something that you can to take our state back. God bless. Good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye.